If you have noticed, FP&A requires these 2-3 skills. One is the ability to create financial models. So if you are working on some sort of a model, learn financial modeling and then implement all of those best practices and all of the tools, techniques that are taught in the financial modeling programs or financial modeling courses in your day-to-day work. So start applying those in your accounting and your finance role right away. And then that is financial modeling. So there are certain more skills. So I would say another would be data visualization, where you could learn one of the tools like Power BI or Tableau, whichever one your organization uses.
Hello and welcome. Real quick update today for you. Before we start the episode, I have got something special for all my FP&A professionals out there. If you have ever wondered whether your current FP&A practices and your FP&A department is truly best in class, or you are looking to find out where you are actually falling short, I have created a free FP&A assessment just for you based on my 20 years of experience. It is a quick but powerful diagnostic tool which helps you assess your data, processes, people and technology, and provides a quick snapshot on your strengths, uncovers your hidden gaps, and gives you a clear roadmap on becoming a more strategic, data-driven finance leader. It takes less than 5 minutes to assess where you stand. The link is in the description below. Thank you. Hello and welcome to FP&A Unboxed Podcast, where we dive into real stories, challenges, and wins for finance leaders. I am Tejas Parikh, your founder of Akshar Business Consulting and your host on the FP&A Unboxed podcast. Today, we will be talking with Asif Masani, who is basically joining us from Bombay, and he's the co-founder of FP&A Professionals Institute. Thank you for joining the show, Asif.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Tejas. It is a pleasure speaking to you.
Yeah, no, it has been, we've been coordinating on quite a few things of late, and I think this is just another feather in the cap, and I think it'll be a good conversation. So, Asif, you've been around the block, right, so to speak, like you've been in FP&A Audit, you've been in industry, you are now doing basically FP&A Professional Institute. But if we basically break it down, when you move from audit into FP&A, right, ultimately becoming the APAC FP&A, basically Coursera, can you share your defining moment or challenge during the transition which reshaped your career trajectory towards FP&A? But again, audit is a very different mindset that way compared to FP&A. So, what was that moment or the challenge which reshaped your entire career trajectory?
Before I get into that, I wanted to thank you specially because if you remember 2.5, 3 years back when I started writing on LinkedIn, I got inspired from a lot of people who were already doing that. So I think I was following 7 or 8 people who were writing about FP&A and who were constantly sharing their experiences. It was Anders and Nicholas, and one of the people that I was following was also you. So I still remember that picture that I had created of all the people I used to follow. So thank you so much for, first of all, inspiring me to take this up, the thought leadership portion of FP&A. So I just wanted to thank you. With that, let me talk about the question that you asked about the transition, right, from audit to FP&A. So I worked in audit for a while, I think 3.5 years. And then I did not enjoy doing it. So I figured out after a couple of years that, okay, this is something I don't want to do for rest of my career. And I think you could also, in the smile on your face, I think you can also relate.
I have to interject. I did auditing for 10 months. 2 years is too long.
I did it for 3.5 years. I did it for 3.5
Oh, wow.
And
I survived for 10 months, and I tell you, I got so sick. I apologize. It takes a lot of different mindset for people to do audit. Yes. I don't have that mindset. I have to put it on record. I don't.
No, in fact, I actually enjoyed for the first 1.5 years because you were getting that special treatment and lot of travel, which was very new for me. Before that, I never used to travel so frequently, and I enjoyed 1.5, 2 years, which is frequent traveling, and then a lot of privileges that comes with the life of an auditor. You know, you get whatever you want with the click of just snapping your finger. You get it because, okay, auditor has asked for it. It must be important. Okay. So I enjoyed that for 1.5 years, but then realized that something not I can do for the rest of my life. And I wanted to move out of audit. So I wanted to get into one of the profiles, which was investment banking, equity research, or valuations. So I tried getting into all of these 3 profiles. I could not do that because of various reasons. And this was like, after giving 10, 15 interviews in these profiles, this was the only option I had, which was a FP&A analyst role in Citibank back in 2013, 2014. And at that time, I did not even know what FP&A was. And I just took the role because that was the only option I had. Once I got into the role, I understood, okay, this is what FP&A is, how it is different from your usual accounting and audit, and everything what I learned was on that particular role. So that was, I think, one of the defining moment. And the second one was, I would say, when I moved out of big company FP&A roles. So I used to work in very large organizations like Citibank, Pfizer. So this was when I moved into the EdTech industry back in 2021, and I got to see the entire P&L for the organization. So earlier I used to work in one particular area, which could be one particular expense or looking at one particular country P&L. So although it was a good experience, but once I got into startups and mid-sized organizations, there I could see the entire P&L, and I was managing the entire P&L or the entire company's FP&A. So that those I think were the two defining moments.
How different would you say is basically, how different is it in working in a smaller organization versus say a bigger organization where you have got a limited view of the world?
So it depends on your interest and personality. Some people enjoy working in big organizations and looking at one particular area, and some people like to take control of things, take to like to look at bigger, like to have more responsibility and look at the entire P&L. So both are, I mean, I would say both are required experiences, both are necessary experiences. It depends on your personality and your, I would say, interest. Which do you like? So I would recommend anybody who's watching this to try both and then figure out which one you like more. I figured out that I like the second, which was a mid-sized company, full P&L roles much better because you were more in control. You had more interactions with the business, and compared to the larger organization, you feel more valued and you feel much more involved in the business. That is the only reason that I would say that I liked those type of roles.
Perfect. So the book behind you, right, all about FP&A, is clearly resonating with beginners and mid-sized, mid-career professionals, essentially, right? So are these real users whose stories of moving from accounting to audit that stand out to you? Are there anybody particular that you think they have done something inspired from your book or your courses and things like that?
Yes. So there are two books behind me. So one is the first book is all about FP&A, which I'll talk about first. So this was back. I wrote this book back in 2022, 23, and I think 2022, November 2022. And this is basically all of the collection of everything that I wrote on LinkedIn from 2021 to 2022, my entire 18 months. And it's a collection of all the uh, articles and all the posts, and just a much more structured approach or structured, um, I would say, a structured book that people could refer. So people used to always ask me on LinkedIn that I really like reading your posts, but is there a resource where I could get everything at one place? So that is the reason I decided to write that book. And in terms of what I've seen, so this book has been there on the Amazon and all the book sites for about 2.5 years now. Uh, yeah, more than I think 2.5 years. And I usually get one message on LinkedIn almost every month. So every month I get a message from somebody on LinkedIn talking about how the book has helped them prepare for the interview and also crack the interview. So I must have got at least 10-15 messages in the last, I would say, 2 years. One almost every month, that people reaching out and thanking me. I use your book for interview preparation, and this is one of the reasons I could clear the interview. So that is one. And the second book, which you see, which is From Accounting to FP&A, which is I would say, which is a prequel of that book. So a lot of people, after reading the first book, they said, okay, you explained FP&A very in simple words, and we really like the FP&A profile. But I, but now we don't know how to make the transition. How do we make the shift from my present role to the next? So can you do something about that? So that is the reason I wrote the second book. And The second book is more of a career guidance book or a interview prep book for people who want to transition. And one funny incident happened where one of the interviewer who used to take FP&A interviews was a good friend of mine, and he reached out to me and he said that I wanted to take a FP&A interview and I use your book to ask the candidate the questions, and he gave me the answers exactly as per what was written in the book. And after I finished the interview, he told me, okay, I also had read the book for the interview preparation. That was something which was very funny that I found, and I usually share that wherever people ask me about this book and question.
That's funny, right? I mean, that is like a school. But this is your textbook. The examiner knows this is the textbook. The student knows this is the textbook, and they're both following the same textbook. That sounds fantastic, right? That's a very well built reputation.
The book also has about 100 plus FP&A interview questions people can prepare. And what I've done is I've created short 5-10 minute videos on YouTube, which I publish once in a week, answering those questions. So just people, if they want to just prepare for an FP&A interview, they can see the question in the book and then they can watch the YouTube video. Okay, how do you answer those questions like I would do or somebody experienced in FP&A would do.
Oh, lovely. That sounds fantastic and very helpful, that is. So, any practical steps you would recommend for accountant? Because you already just touched upon that, right? Who want to start making that shift into FP&A. So, any excerpt from the book you would like to share with us?
I started with that and I got lost. So first thing is a
Awesome.
mindset. First of all, you have to be convinced, and you have to convince yourself that FP&A is something very commonsensical and very logical. And anybody, even from non-accounting or audit background, I've seen people from engineering backgrounds and non-finance backgrounds also get into FP&A and do well. So it's very easy. So first thing is that. Second, I would say is you start preparing from whatever you're doing as an accountant or an auditor in your day-to-day work. Start to figure out what are those common skills or what are the common things that are required for FP&A roles. So for example, if you are an accountant, you might be doing certain transactional level activities which are related to accounting, but you might also be doing some sort of analysis, or you might be doing some sort of value addition after the books of accounts are ready or after the accounting is done. You might be doing some analysis, you might be communicating some report to the business stakeholders. So there are some elements of FP&A in most accounting and finance roles. So you have to figure out what those are and then start to build on those skills. So for example, if you have noticed, FP&A requires these three skills. One is the ability to create financial models. So if you are working on some sort of a model, learn financial modeling and then implement all of those best practices and all of the tools, techniques that are taught in the financial modeling programs or financial modeling courses in your day-to-day work. So start applying those in your accounting and your finance role right away. And then that is financial modeling. So there are more certain more skills. So I would say another would be data visualization, where you could learn one of the tools like Power BI or Tableau, whichever one your organization uses. So after financial modeling, next step would be data visualization. So once you've learned how to create a model, the next step is how do you present it? How do you create charts? How do you make sure that you communicate that data or communicate the insight that you want to? So learn data visualization. And the final step I would say is understand whatever you're doing, what is the end use of that. So if you're creating a report or if you're working on some sort of a uh, uh, financial statement or a financial report for somebody in the organization, understand what they are going to do after they receive it. So most of the accounting people, what they do or what I used to do earlier in my career is what my role is. Sorry, I went into
Hindi, I know.
my,
I do
my
that all the time.
my job is to create the report, check the report in terms of the accuracy, and then send it. After that, whatever happens is not my
It's
concern.
not a problem.
Yeah, but that is where actually you will be able to get into senior finance and FP&A roles, where you understand what they are using that report for, what are their problems, what are they trying to achieve, what decision they're. So if you understand that and if you try to help somebody who's using the report, that will create that shift from your accounting to the FP&A roles. So let me just quickly recap. Mindset is the first thing. Then you learn financial modeling, figure out the common skills, financial modeling, data visualization, start learning them one by one, and then eventually figure out, right, what is your end product use, what are they doing, and then try to add value around it.
Yeah, see, again, I have, at least my career trajectory took me the exact other way around, where from accounting, then I started talking to, okay, what do you do when I give you a month-end P&L? So I started talking to the business first, then I started doing visualization out of it in Excel. Again, back in the day, there was not even Power BI. So Excel. And then based on that, I'm like, okay, now I can do financial modeling as well. So mine almost went the other way around. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, these are the three components. As long as you can get these are three, it almost doesn't matter, right? I mean, it's not the order. It's
Right.
that
I
order
don't
they're
think
not finding.
order would matter. So I would have done it this way because financial modeling would probably be a more frequently used skill compared to data visualization. Maybe that is the reason. Maybe and whatever. If you use
Yeah,
you do a lot of presentation, then probably the data visualization would come before
yeah, yeah.
before
I ended
model.
up doing a lot of talking to people, right? I am a talker, clearly. So that that came across first. Can you share a real example where FP&A insights or a scenario analysis influenced a strategic direction or decision at the board level, or something like that, where FP&A, a piece of work done in FP&A decided the strategy or the direction the business took?
Let me talk about a couple of both. I'll talk about one where I worked in a big company where I did not actually have a lot of influence uh, about scenario analysis. So let me talk about one big company where I worked, and then I'll talk about the mid-sized company. Okay, so this was back when I was working with a banking organization, which is a very large bank, and this was the first interaction I had with a tool that they used, which was a forecasting tool, which is called by the name of Ruby. I'm sure you might be aware. So the name of the tool is Ruby. It is an inbuilt tool built by the bank, and this was my first interaction with scenario analysis, where I could see that tool doing the entire bank's balance sheet analysis, balance sheet scenario analysis, and usually bigger banks or banks which are listed in New York Stock Exchange, they have a very rigorous testing required. So I remember we used to do 8 different scenarios: the normal base case, best case, worst case, and then there used to be a couple of more scenarios for stress testing, and then another 1 or 2 scenarios which the regulatory requirements were. So that was my first interaction back in 2014-15, where I saw that particular tool Ruby, which was inbuilt tool by the bank, how that could do scenario analysis for the entire bank's balance sheet, more than uh, $2 trillion of assets and liabilities, within a matter of few days. So within a matter of 4 to 5 days, it used to be able to create all of those 8 scenarios. And I am sure 10 years later, it should be able to do that same thing in maybe a couple of hours. So that was my first interaction with scenario analysis, and I realized how powerful that is. Um, and in terms of, now, let me talk about the second, which is a more where I had a certain say or I had influence, which was a more of a mid-sized organization where I worked with. So this was one of the EdTech organizations I had worked with, and I think people should be able to guess the name of the organization. They can put that in the comments if they are able to do that. So this is where I was analyzing. So this is a EdTech organization where the typical funnel is a lot of free people, free users register on the platform. They take free courses, and then some percentage of that convert into paid users. So say 100 people register on the platform, and out of that maybe 2% of them would convert to paid users. So 98% of the people would take the courses for free. So that was the model. And I was doing some analysis of the users based on cohorts and based on different regions that they come from. And I realized that one particular region, which was uh, India, had 5 times more free users compared to the other regions. So they were like, from compared to other regions, India had more free users, and not just maybe 10% 20%. It was 5 times more free users than compared to the other regions. Okay, so that was something that the business did not know. That is something that I brought to their attention. And because of that one insight, there were so many tests that they run, and they eventually changed the entire model and the pricing for that particular product that they are selling even today. And that we changed the pricing, I don't know, by 1/5 of what it was at that point. Okay, but it all started with one insight, sharing that, okay, this particular country, out of the 100 countries that their users come from, that country, they have 5 times more free users compared to, but the conversion rate is poor, but meaning there is something that is not right. Okay, even the free users are 5 times, but the conversion rate is less than or half of what it is for other regions. Okay, so that one insight led to a lot of tests. It did not result into any immediate gain, but that led to a series of tests and series of uh, experiments, and that resulted into a lot of uh, a lot of value for that, unlocking value for that particular business. So yeah,
So,
these are a
so
couple
that
of
no
examples that I.
pricing changes, right? Because that basically meant that they had to try a few things out to up the conversion rate so that based on the right pricing, essentially.
Yeah, so I'll tell you. So what used to happen is the model was there was certain loopholes in the system, in the platform, that people could get access to the course using something which they called it as a scholarship, or something they called it as a financial aid at that time. Okay, and the financial aid the system of the financial aid was such that they had to just fill up a simple form which was like 6 or 7 details, and they used to fill up and in that financial aid form they had to tell them, they had to disclose, okay, this is my name, this is my income which is less than the threshold which is required for the financial aid, and I'm telling the truth. Okay, this is my financial situation. That's why I am taking the financial aid. Okay, but that was just a form. Nobody was checking that form. Nobody used to audit that entire process. If I filled the form, even if my income is 10 crore rupees or $100,000, I could still get the financial aid. So that was the first thing that they identified. Okay, 5 times more people are taking free courses. So we should have certain controls around that financial aid process. So that was the first thing that led to the increase in revenue. The pricing came after a long time. It came after a series of experiments. In fact, it came after I left the firm in 2023. But I'm sure that insight, or uh, that had led to that, the entire series of experiments that they had run.
Yeah, the process, you kicked off the process. Then the process led to the journey that it led. And ultimately the pricing and the marketing or whatever else that they had to change, that is all a part of the journey, right?
And many times they would not actually, business will not act on your recommendation. So that is also true. There could be any business reasons for it. They may not just, okay, your job is to provide insights and recommendations, and it has happened with me so many times. Out of the 20 recommendations I provide, they only listen to 3 of them. Okay, so that is also a part of like.
Yeah. And again, people shouldn't take it too personally. Again, I get a lot of people telling me like, oh, but the business doesn't listen to me. Yeah, but the business has got a million inputs coming in. So yours is one of the million inputs. They will not be able to listen to you every time you open your mouth. You're not Prince Charles, man. I mean, get real.
Yes.
Cool. So you frequently talk also about reallocating time from budgeting to strategic projects and value creation. So how are you coaching teams to make that mindset shift from number crunching to strategic influence, essentially?
So I think I mean, I have had this discussion with you also, and you are also very firm promoter of this. So I would probably, I might sound like I'm repeating what you already talk about in your all your conversations. So right, first of all, most of the FP&A teams, I don't know the situation right now in 2025, but maybe when I was working in 2022 or maybe 3 years back, at that time, I used to see all of the FP&A teams spend majority of their time in the executional tasks, like creating reports, preparing budgets, sending commentaries, right, writing commentaries. So 80-90%, and they never used to get time out of that to participate in any of these business related projects or strategic projects that are important. Okay, so again, I will repeat what you usually advocate. So figure out what are the activities that you do on a day-to-day basis. Figure out what are the repeatable, regular ones that can be automated. Make sure if you can automate those activities, do that. It might take you a few months to do that, but you will be able to free up time. You'll be able to free up maybe 10, 20, 30, 40% of your time, which then you can repurpose or delegate to your business projects or more important strategic outcomes which are required by the organization.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, that is one. So what I usually what we teach in our programs and in our courses is there are two ways to measure FP&A teams performance, right? Like every business has a KPI. FP&A team also has some certain KPIs that you can track the FP&A team's performance. So you should make sure that you're tracking the performance of the FP&A team with the right KPI. So uh, some some teams would track by number of reports produced or by percentage of accuracy of the forecast. Right? These are some KPIs, but I think if you can add that KPI in your list, which is percentage of time spent on projects which are strategic, or percentage of time spent on projects which are business requested or business facing, I think that could be another way to do that.
No, definitely. I think basically percentage of time spent, and again, to be honest, there was another podcast guest I was talking to, and he made a very good point. He's like, Tejas, every quarter we sit down and we reassess this quarter, what are the key decisions as FP&A that we influenced, right? And what was the monetary either savings or revenue growth or profit improvement did we help the business generate? Right? And every quarter, literally, he looks at, for example, if I have a 5 people estimated team and it is costing X, the return on investment has to be at least 3x to 5x. Means they have to either save money, increase profit, or increase revenue 3 to 5x of their salary. And that actually, they do that every quarter. In the beginning, it sounded very ominous. But now they've been doing it for 3 years. And they're like, just you have no idea. It is actually very easy as compared to what you think. And every quarter, when you do this with the team is so motivated because team is, yeah, let's make sure we do this quarter so that our numbers add up. Essentially, and that's fantastic culture, right? I mean, that's the culture you want in an FP&A team.
Yes, absolutely.
Again, exactly. When you put your mind to it, I think you can really solve for it, is what the message came across to me. So, what lessons from your content strategy that you are teaching, finance people a content strategy for LinkedIn, for YouTube, for personal branding and things like that, building influence within the organization. So, like, how does that help them in their job? Okay, that helps them build a brand outside their job. Like again, like we've never worked together, but you knew of me just 3, 4 years back just because of what the work I do on LinkedIn. So how does that help them go within their job?
So you talked about LinkedIn, you talked about YouTube, you talked about what was the last one?
Personal branding.
Personal branding. Okay. So let me specifically first talk about LinkedIn. Okay. So I usually get a lot of messages, especially during the last, I would say 3 months, these messages have gone up, these type of messages, right? This is how the typical message is, okay? I was working in this organization for 10 years or more than that, probably most of them. And out of suddenly nowhere, there was a productivity saving layoff or there was a mismatch in the skills, right? Whatever the reason is. Okay. And suddenly I had, after working for that company for more than 10 years, the next day I was jobless. So these type of messages I have been receiving since the last year or so, but the frequency has increased in the last 3 months. Okay. And it could be AI, it could be, I don't know what the exact reason is, but maybe the technological shifts that you're seeing in most of the industries that is happening. Okay. So now when you create your personal brand on LinkedIn, forget about getting a new job or forget about getting, right? If you have a good personal brand, or I would say forget personal brand, visibility is more common word, right? If you are more visible in your organization, right? And when you do that on LinkedIn, you automatically become more extroverted and you become more visible in your, it's not that you just post something on LinkedIn without any substance behind it, right? You might be able to do that if you are, for example, doing a presentation in your company, if you're doing some sort of a training in your company, right? You're then sharing all of those things on LinkedIn.
Sure, definitely. We should definitely do this again for sure. Asif, thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.